Hey guys, it's Legend95 recording live from the local county prison cell. Alright, so a little bit of a story here. Remember, I think I may have mentioned this in my last video, but I was going to, honest to goodness, do Naruto Luffy as this video, as like my, this week's video. But then, it was told to me on Facebook, or not Facebook, told me as a YouTube comment that Death Battle had revealed on Twitter that the finale, either the finale or the opening episode for Season 3 was going to be Naruto Luffy. And I'm not sure how long we have to wait on that, but knowing that it's like an upcoming episode, whether it be 5, 6 episodes in the future or not, I'm not gonna like, waste time and do that fight. Like, when I'm just gonna have to analyze it, like, in a month or two. I'm not gonna do it now. So, I had to come up with another fight. And then I realized there was something I skipped over because I did a stupid version of it in the past. So, this fight is going to be Krillin from Dragon Ball Z versus Kuwabara from Yu Yu Hakusho. Because I once did a Yamcha versus Kuwabara, because I remember back in the day that, people my age used to live in, people were always saying Kuwabara was the Yamcha of Yu Yu Hakusho, because, except that's not really a fair comparison. Yamcha literally has, like, won one fight, and Kuwabara has won at least a few fights. Whether or not they were earned is up for debate, but he has won certain fights. Anyway, I mean, maybe they meant because they're both voiced by Chris Sabat, but, so anyway, yeah, and people are always like, well, Krillin is always the punching bag and the guy that nobody takes seriously, so maybe Kuwabara deserves to be, in that spot. So, I remember Death Battle actually said, or, sorry, Screw Attack actually said, this isn't going anywhere, but if we were to put Krillin in a death battle, who would you want it to be against? And everybody said Kuwabara. This was on Facebook, like more than a year ago. So, I said, yeah, and then I'm like, well, that's, stupid, because, Krillin would have been. And then I'm like, then again. So, here we are. So let's look at this then. So Krillin trained, trained with Master Roshi under the same, same martial arts, same techniques, did all that same stuff as Goku did, for really the same amount of time. Problem is, Goku had training after that, and, training that allowed him to excel farther, as well as Krillin didn't have Goku's Saiyan heritage, so clearly it didn't, so it didn't really mend as much, and he didn't become he wasn't as superhuman right off the bat. So that's, he's got that to his name. He can at least say, hey, I trained with Roshi just as long as Goku did. I did all the same things Goku did, and, now that at least allows me to the point where I can, I can say that, I came from the same beginning as him. He never does that, but, he could say that if he could say anything. So, because of that, he's mastered techniques like, Kamehameha. Somehow he's mastered Solar Flare, I don't really know. The origins of that technique were never really explained in anything. And then he's got that, I'm not going to pronounce it because I don't have Tenkaichi right in front of me. But that thing where he shoots up energy into the sky and then directs it downward. Yeah, that thing. And then of course his signature, Destructo Disc! Which is an odd name. You'd think it would have, like, a more elegant, like, you'd think, it would have a more, like, I imagine in the Japanese it translates, like, whatever they call it in the Japanese translates into something more like, martial artsy, not just Destructo Disc. That's like as 90s as you can get, really. But it's fitting because, you know, show was in the 90s. Um, so, I mean, also being able to fly at, you know, speed of sound and fucking strong enough to... Actually, I don't think Has Krillin's physical strength ever actually been, like, determined? That's a good question, because... I mean, we want to say, like, okay, he's strong enough to do this and fast enough to do that, and we want to say he's comparable to Dragon Ball Z level strength, but we've never seen Krillin, like, do it. We've never seen Krillin, like, punch, like, a building or something. We've never seen Krillin. Krillin isn't the one that, like, displays his strength, really. So, I mean, he was able to beat this this giant acrobatic, uh, like, holy shit, like, all, you know, superhuman level guy in the world tournament in under, like, 3 seconds, you know. Just kicked him in the stomach and fucking knocked him halfway across the arena. So we know that this guy is, like, we know that this guy is, you know, Krillin is the real deal, and, you know, Yamcha said, like, I wouldn't want to fight this guy when we weren't just playing around. Like, I wouldn't want to be this guy's opponent in the world tournament. And Tien has pointed out, you know, Tien has actually, it's, I don't really know if it's been spoken, but if you play the Budokai games, Tien has been like, one day I want it to be my goal to surpass Krillin as the strongest human on the planet, because that's true. Krillin is the strongest human being on the planet. Krillin is the strongest human being in the Dragon Ball Z universe. That's including Videl, that's including Roshi, that's including... Yeah, he is the strongest human being in the Dragon Ball Z universe. So, if anybody didn't deserve all the shit they got, it was probably Krillin. He is literally the best in his class. His class is considered inferior, but he is the best in it. Let's go into Kuwabara. And some might consider him the strongest human being, now that ever since Yusuke found out he was, you know, ancestrally a demon. Yeah, and Kurama's not human by origin, so Kuwabara, I guess, and Genkai died, so Kuwabara is the strongest human. And Sensui's dead, so that doesn't count. Yeah, so, strongest human, yay. So let's, you know, Kuwabara having an abnormally large amount of spirit energy was really, he was going to advance quickly, clearly. You know, Yusuke was chosen to be the spirit detective and was conditioned, you know, he was trained basically to have his spirit energy excel, whereas Kuwabara was meant to, like, Kuwabara was just like, no, my spirit energy was big from the get-go, and I just had to go to somewhere to make sure it, you know, and he didn't really get training for it until, you know, like, basically he just found out how to... At the beginning, this guy was just like, he just trained his own spirit energy. After finding out he could make the spirit sword, he trained himself to make it at will, and, you know, so, I mean, he's got that sort of... I mean, he doesn't really have a lot of training with anything he's done. To be honest, he's never really trained a lot. I don't believe Kuwabara's been properly trained in how to use his spirit energy a lot, but, you know, he has... Basically, just for the sake of being rivals with Yusuke, he's, you know, conditioned himself. And then there was that whole bag of tricks guy that fucking decided to give everyone decided to give everyone a fucking thing so that they could beat Togoro. Kuwabara was basically, and that made it so that Kuwabara could advance enough to do things like dual wield his spirit sword and what's it called? What's that other thing called? Like the spirit dagger or something? It's like where he fires multiple like smaller spirit blades out of his hand. That's pretty. That would definitely come in handy in this fight. And but then everything changed when he started to get the next gen evolution of his spirit energy, which was the dimension cutting spirit sword, which is considered an evolution of his current spirit sword. So I guess he could dual wield it. But yeah, this sword can actually. I don't think it cuts through dimensions. I think it like the cut it deals goes like he can attack someone in another dimension. That's his. I don't think it physically like cuts. Well, actually, no, it does. It does physically cut through dimension because it cut through the dimensional barriers that separated. Yeah, okay, so it does cut through dimensions, and I think, but that's not really gonna help, except for one useful aspect that I actually had to read up to make sure this was true, and apparently it is. Apparently, in one of the very few parts of Yu Yu Hakusho that was exclusive to the manga, because the show pretty much covered all the manga. In one of the very few exclusive parts, it was confirmed that Kuwabara could, quote unquote, cut the space between two objects in half with with a strike. Meaning, okay, so let's say Krillin and Kuwabara are 100 yards apart. Kuwabara could use his sword, make them 50 yards apart. Use his sword again, make them 25 yards apart. He can cut the space between two objects in half. So that's like the warp drive of. That's like the warp drive of fucking Yu Yu Hakusho. But, instead of running on a warp engine that uses a proportionate 1-by-1 ratio of matter to antimatter to, travel multiple times the speed of light, or travel the speed of light times itself, rather. Star Trek fan. This is just a sword. So, yeah. So, I mean, that's going to come in handy. So who is going to win between Krillin and Kuwabara? To be honest, if you had asked me when I made that video of Yamcha Kuwabara, who I think I said Yamcha would win, I would have said easily Krillin. I'm going to say Krillin, but it's not easily Krillin. I mean, just by being able to manipulate the battlefield as much as he could, I mean, Kuwabara is not a smart guy, but, he has matured a lot in the series. So, being able to manipulate the battlefield as much as he could with that spirit sword, that new dimension-cutting spirit sword, yeah, I mean, come on. And by the way, I should emphasize something, and I saw this on a forum, and I should really emphasize this. He's not strong enough to cut through dimensions. I heard that somewhere, like, Kuwabara's attacks are so strong that it goes through dimensions. No, they're specifically designed to go through dimensions. They're a dimension-cutting sword. It's not like, he's punching the air and it's not like Boo where he screams loud enough to cut through dimensions. No, this sword is specifically designed to cut through dimensions. But anyway, yeah, so Krillin, like for instance, Kuwabara being able to dual wield and shoot out those energy daggers and shit, that's gonna be something that is going to throw Krillin for a loop, but if there's anybody that, is going to surprise you, it's going to be these two. But I still think Krillin's going to win. I mean, this is going to be a much bigger fight than people make it out to be. So yeah. Guess I'll yeah, so Verbal Engine 95. See ya.